Welcome to the Lucentlands Podcast. We have identified the need for a platform where industry leaders and innovators in the agricultural sector can share their stories and inspire others. We hope you enjoy listening to this as much as we enjoyed speaking to these people. Welcome.
So, Anton, good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us. It's a beautiful day in the Hexriver Valley, and I know that you're busy farming. It's the green grapes time now. But thanks for taking time to chat to us. Please tell us about your farming operation and how did it develop and how did you become involved?
Yes, thank you, Louise Devalt, for the opportunity. I grew up in the Hexriver Valley. We've been here now for about 125 years. We just had a big reunion on the farm where the great-grandfathers all started at the Flay. And yeah, I just fell in love with the vineyards. We grew up playing the vineyards, worked on the farms when we were young and still allowed to work on the farms. I'm younger than 16. Nowadays it's all different. You know, you need to have an ID and be 18, and it's all the laws regarding labor. And but I must say the grapes taste a lot better now than they tasted back in the days. We only ate the natak, as we call it, the bunches with the 4 to 5 berries. That was the late harvest bunches. And my dad is very involved in the farming, and also back in the days that when we were regulated at Unifruco, he was a board member there and representing the Hexriver as well. And he was really keen to grow his farming operation out of the Hexriver as well to supply the markets. We could have done it back for 6 months, but now it changed with Peru pushing us quite in front, and also India that's at the back. So he went up to Uppington and started 2 farms there.
When was that?
That was in 97. That's when he went up, and it was all still the old Sultanas, Thompson vines, and then the early primes came in and some of the newer varieties. So we had a big market there before Christmas. That was the main drive to get into the pre-Christmas market. But now it all changed. Back then it was lower crops with high prices. Now you need to have a decent crop to make ends meet. So you miss that earliness now.
So your father was one of the early pioneers actually up along the Orange River.
Yes, there was the traditional guys there, like the Piet Karstens, who went from Lucerne to Table Grapes, and some of the other farmers. And out of the Hexriver, I think he was the second guy after Kwesi Loubser, who went there in the 80s. I think he was the first guy to go. And so he went to and bought a farm next to Piet Karstens in Louisville. It's about 20 kilometers from Uppington. And then 2 years later, he went 2 hours downstream towards the Namibian border, where he bought another farm. And then it was easy to change the waters. You could just go to the water, what do you call it?
Waterboard.
Waterboard, and just by the sign of a paper, you could shift water from the one entity to another one. And he moved 200 hectares of water to that early goat farm, as we called it. We were farming goats there. And that's today our earliest farm, and we're doing very good there. It's before the big Uppington bulk of grapes. So it's really
further west, huh? So it's earlier.
Correct. Yeah, so it's between Kakamas and Ausengear, roughly, if we can say that.
But back when your father went up there, have they started with table grapes already?
Yes. And it was only the Thompsons. It was the raisin Thompsons. So what they did, they put in Sultanas. Yeah, they sprayed a lot of drip on it to let it thin out, and then they get a bigger berry to eat for table grapes, where the raisins was a very small berry, and that's how the whole industry started there.
And Louise actually did a whole write-up about the Orange River's history. And
yes. Also in the
very interesting stories up there.
Yes.
So your dad was one of the pioneers, and he started to grow these. He had these 2 farms there, which obviously gave you guys quite a big advantage in that the Hex is very much a part of the late season.
Yes.
So suddenly you had these early grapes coming in, which must have been a huge boon to your company to grow what you were doing. So what happened after that?
Correct. What we learned there was that was all seedless grapes, and the Hexriver were about 90% seeded, all with the old traditional varieties like Alphonse, Palinka, Dauphine. And we saw those seedless varieties are getting the premium prices, and eventually the Hexriver started to change from seeded to seedless. That was in the year 2000 till 2010. They weren't great varieties. It was all local varieties like Regal Seedless, Sundance, and Sunred Seedless. So that were planted and taken out again, and then the whole international world came in. Sunworld was the first one to come in with Superior, Superior, Festival, Sugar 01, all the same name. But we say today Sugar 01, that was the first variety, and Atuxtra came in with the prime seedless. And that's where the seedless varieties came in, and the whole breeding programs, IFG came in, and SNFL, they followed Sunworld. But Sunworld were the pioneers.
They were indeed. I mean, Sunworld was really those, as you say, those first varieties that
Correct.
we got, which was something different, the seedless varieties. And that started a revolution, actually.
Yeah, especially the variety Sable. It was so sought after variety. They only limited to 125 hectares in South Africa. It was like black gold. It did very well. But now it's difficult. A lot of good varieties coming in now and to choose from.
Yes. So
That Sable is still flipping awesome.
and it tastes so delicious.
No, it's very good.
It's got that lovely flavour. So then as you were saying, as things changed, but does ASV Viljoen Farms have property in the Olifants or Berg River area?
We in the Berg River, we also had a farm there together with Leon Viljoen. It's my dad's brother. They bought it also in 95 somewhere that year, also to be earlier. They about 2 weeks earlier than the Hexriver. I took over my dad's shares there, so farming together with my uncle Leon. Very good area. You also spread your risk to be in another area as well, and you can farm certain varieties for a few extra weeks if you farm in different areas, which is very good to the customers, because what we see is that the preference they have of varieties are becoming less and less. They only want 2 good whites, 2 good reds every year, every week on the market.
And that's quite difficult for growers, because if you've invested in a variety and suddenly it loses, it's no longer the flavour of the month or the
Correct.
year, it is a problem.
And that happens very quickly, especially if there's an oversupply of the variety and you can get it everywhere. It loses traction very quickly.
Because everybody wants to get on the same varieties, the same...
Yeah, but then the guy around the corner can also sell it for whatever the price is, and then the whole value of the variety goes down.
But you were now at Fruit Attraction, so what was on that topic, what was the general consensus of the buyers?
That their cost is very high, especially fuel and gas. But we also have a lot of cost. We have the same issues that they have, and they just need to deal with it.
It's the first time they've had it.
Yeah, it seems like that. And it's a pity that some of those supermarkets want to buy grapes from growers or exporters that's under the production cost. I don't see, they're all about sustainability in these big supermarkets, but I don't see any sustainability in that.
Well, they want sustainability, but economic sustainability is the most important, otherwise there will be nothing.
We've got so much rules and regulations coming from supermarkets, what we need to do to our pack sheds, to our labour force, all the laws and rules that's just costing a lot of money, and then it's not viable to supply them. So I don't see the sustainability with some of these supermarkets that's so harsh on the price and just want to buy cheap. That's not really for me. That's not the one that I want to supply. That's not why I farm, to give away fruit.
No, you can't.
No.
Nobody can. It's a business.
Yeah, correct.
That, somebody said they would rather sit at home and go bankrupt than work themselves bankrupt.
That's good, yeah.
But so, okay, so where do you see this going? I mean, economic sustainability is a big problem at the moment. I mean, I know right now there are farmers who literally cannot make ends meet, and there are people that are sawing off their vines because there's no working capital and stuff like that. I mean, I know that you must know about that, and we all got different financial gearing. But the trends, what are you looking at? What are you seeing?
Yes, the area I live in is the Hexriver, like I explained, and it's a very good table grape growing area, and the land is very expensive here, similar to Franschhoek or Stellenbosch.
What kind of costs are the land going for here?
Well, between $1 million and 1.6 million, depends on the farm.
Per hectare?
Per hectare. And the cost, like you just say, the working capital, it's to prepare a hectare of table grapes is about 560,000 rand.
To establish it?
Yeah, no, for the season, for the coming season. And what I see the growers is frightening of, if I put the 560,000 in, will I get it back?
Yeah.
Not even talking about a profit, but will I get that back? Or will I only get back 300 and down to 260? That's the thing that we see. So what we see, the varieties that the farmer doesn't think can do it, he saws it off, or he makes raisins with it or anything else, but he's not going to take a chance to export that, which is good in a situation that we are in with the supply and demand where it is now in Europe. The demand is lower with the rising cost there. So we just only want to ship the best varieties this season, and then I still think we can make a good year and a good some good money on it, rather than to oversupply the market. Rather keep it here.
They had an interesting thing on the radio this morning. Was going to drop the kids. The 15th of November next week, that's 2022. In case people listen to this later, is going to be the day that the world eats 8 billion people. Mm. Then they gave some stats. Is that Asia? Now that includes Russia, China, all those countries. They've got a growth rate at the moment of 2.1 children per woman. And they say to replace your current population, you need to have a birth rate of 2.2 children per woman. It's 2 point like something right there. Then you replace your current, then there's not more people dying than what's being born.
Okay. Yeah.
Europe is sitting at, I think, 1.8 children per woman. So they are losing, they're shrinking.
Yeah.
Africa is, the birth rate is 4 point something per woman. So Africa is doubling. It's going to double in the next, I think, 30 years, they said again.
Mm. So just on that, Africa is a very good market. We can see it in the stone fruit, apples and pears. But on grapes, you need to have a cold chain, and that's what we don't have in the most parts of Africa. So that's why grape doesn't really get a lot of traction in Africa. The major cities, yes, we do well. Nairobi in Kenya, West Africa, and the major cities, it's doing very well. But to go beyond that, it doesn't exist for table grapes. A box of apples they can carry 100 kilometers away, but yes, grapes it won't make it. So, and Africa is developing. If you take Nigeria, the capital there, it's developing, and a lot of the big cities. And I think in a few years' time, it will be a good table grape market. And the ones we supply, they only want the best. It's like China. They want the biggest, best, strongest varieties, and they'll pay for it. And a lot of it will be air freighted into Africa.
Sure. And in terms of growers going up into Africa, people establishing vineyards further up?
Yes, we've heard that even now in close to Ocho there in Namibia, there's a few hectares been planted there. But it's all for the local market, but they will do very good. To go and farm in Africa, what makes it difficult is they don't have market access. So they have market access maybe to Europe or a few countries, but that's the biggest issue, just to go into a new country, start farming there. A lot of rules and regulations to get...
You mean government market access?
Exactly. And even to get the varieties into your country.
Yeah.
Your country needs to have a protection act, plant protection acts and all of that. Otherwise the breeders, the big companies, they won't send their vines there. So a lot of things that needs to be in place for them to protect their intellectual property.
So what you're actually saying, what Dewald mentioned about the population growth and that Africa is growing, and you saying that one needs a cold chain. Do you see that happening? Do you see, truckloads of South African grapes going by truck into Africa? Or as you were saying, you were talking about air freighting. Which do you see growing? And obviously they're going to need to develop cold storage facilities along the way. But it's quite an exciting thought.
Yes, but with our local supermarkets that's expanding into Africa, they've got big DCs as well, all put up. And you can see that also increases the grape sales because there's infrastructure. And transport trucks up and down into, the neighboring countries, I won't say that high up, sub-Saharan countries. So especially ShopRite is very big in Africa. And so a lot of the South African grapes are exported to their stores, which weren't there a few years ago.
And how would that be moving? By truck?
I think both, truck and air.
Wow.
Yeah, and shipment. They will ship. West Africa has got a lot of shipping routes.
Yeah.
Because it's on the European route as well. So that will mostly be by ship. What we see in Kenya, it's a lot of fruit by air, especially punnets as well.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But interesting, since you're talking about the cold chain, we recently visited California and we saw they literally pack in, they do orchard packing, and I know that their market is 4 or 5 or 10 days away.
Yes.
Your markets are kind of how long, by the normal routes that we're using now, shipping routes, how long does it take your stuff to get to the market?
Oh, it used to be 19 days, but it's now maybe 50 days.
50?
Yeah, it's in the far end of the world, going to Israel, going to China, those markets. But Europe, I think it's 3 weeks to Europe.
So are things settling down after the COVID supply chain?
Yes, definitely.
Problems?
We see the bigger industry, the fruit industry, under the umbrella of Fruit SA. They did a lot of work together with Transnet and a lot of stakeholders to get this harbour sorted out. And it's not sorted out completely, but it's a lot better.
That's good to know.
It's definitely better. If we didn't do anything, we would have been a sitting duck in South Africa, and everybody would just buy from Peru and Chile.
Now that you mentioned those countries, I wanted to ask you. So often people think they're competing with the guy next door, but actually we're competing on the world stage. So
Correct.
We are competing with other Southern Hemisphere table grape producers, and South America certainly seems to be our biggest competition.
Yes.
And Peru has grown quite considerably. What's happening with Peru? What's happening with Chile? What can you tell us?
Yeah, Peru's the new kid on the block for the last 5 years. A lot of investment into agriculture there from the outside and from growers. A lot of Chilean growers and expertise that went up to Peru.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yes, and good support from government. They've got some good markets where they don't have a lot of import, what do you call it?
Duties, taxes.
Duties, yes. Some markets we need to pay 43% duties and they zero.
Wow.
So it's difficult to compete with them, but that's all government to government. That's not industry bodies that can sort that out. We can help with market access and do all the work behind the scenes. But on that level, we can't say anything. But Peru, we're mostly a red cloak country. And then they planted all the new varieties. And that's where, so especially the northern part of our country, still have the old Thompson's Primes, early sweets, Sugar 01, that varieties. They need to change quickly to protect their market share.
As South African growers.
Yes.
But why didn't they adapt so quickly?
Cost and earliness of those varieties, which were always good.
But if you go back 3-4 years, when the prices were good and the shipping was...
Yeah, because some of the varieties didn't really make it there. It wasn't that good. It didn't survive the harsh temperatures of Uppington. That was also one of the issues. But it's different now. You can see all changing. And the Uppington is fighting back there, taking back their market share. This is a very good season for them to do it, since the whole northern hemisphere grapes are finished, and Peru is their number one market is the USA. USA's got no grapes left. They had a very short season, so they're focusing 100% on the US, which will give the northern province and the Orange River a good market in the UK and in Europe.
That's nice to hear. You've been speaking a lot about we and international things, so I suppose what we should also do is say that we know that you are the current SATI chairman, which is a big responsibility. And how long have you been the SATI chairman, and how have you experienced it, and what do you do as the SATI chairman? Yes. And who is SATI?
Yes, SATI is our table grape. It's a South African table grape industry, and we get a
statutory levy.
We get a statutory levy, and we do the administration of the grape industry there, and the information and knowledge management, and then very important is market access and the development of markets. And then we do the research and technology, and a quarter of our budget must go for transformation and training. So we've got also a transformation manager as well there that's looking at the transformation BE farms, upcoming farmers. That's also giving them a hand to get them started.
Okay, so the levy is something that is collected from the growers, because SATI represents growers, I understand.
Yes.
Okay.
So all the growers are our members. Every carton that's been exported, not sold locally, exported, gets a levy that's been paid over to SATI.
Okay. And that funds all these activities you were mentioning?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so about 12 years ago I joined SATI, because I was part of the Hexriver Table Grape Association. And I was for 4 years what do you call it?
Vice chairman?
Vice chairman, correct. And then last year I became chairman of SATI, so for a 4-year term. It's very exciting. We had Willem Bespier there as the CEO, which we really enjoyed and learned a lot from him. And he was replaced now by AJ Griesel, very strong leader. He came from the Kaap Agri company, and he just fell in love with the grapes. If I see him speaking 6 months down the line in his new job, it seems like he's been there for years. So now really keen on the industry, especially coming in January with the harvest, everything not working. That's quite a deep end for him, and I think it was good for him. So yes.
Best way to learn swimming is getting...
Yes,
yeah,
jump in the deep end.
He's doing a good job there.
Fantastic. And I mean, not everybody has to get involved in organized agriculture. There must have been something that prompted you to become involved in organized agriculture. A lot of people say, no, they don't have time for it. And having done that, how has that helped you in your personal capacity as a grower? Being close to, being able to hear what's happening on the cutting edge. I mean, it takes time to do that, but how have you perceived that?
It was just to understand the industry also better that I'm in. A lot of people complain about market access, that SATI needs to get a new market. It's very difficult. You'll probably get one in 8 years, get a new market. And then you need to fight the duties on that market again, because it's most of the time very expensive. So that's a big focus of us, but the other focus is also to keep the markets open. That is actually our biggest focus. because of all the pests and plagues that you get nowadays. We didn't have it when I was young, or that much.
It was there, but it was not an issue.
Yeah, so something like that. And so yes, we need to protect the markets. So that's where the research comes in on all the new bugs that we get. You know, they come from North Africa, they can come from another country, and then you need to protect yours. Otherwise you lose market access to especially grape and fruit growing countries who wants to protect their
That's what we saw now with the citrus, with the false codling moth.
Exactly.
And it's and yet we know that there's other stuff going over that's had more issues with false codling moth than what the citrus has had. But
yeah.
But as you're saying, basically sometimes they use a phytosanitary issue to become a trade barrier.
Exactly.
So one has to keep that. One has to keep. You have to keep your finger on the pulse. So I mean, you're talking about market access. Are there any exciting new markets where SATI is knocking on the door?
Yes, we South Korea. So we're very close to open that market.
That's exciting.
It's exciting, but it's got a big duty on, about
Okay.
43%.
Oh wow!
So that takes the excitement away.
Yes, it certainly does.
And then the Philippines, it's a 6% duty, so that's more reasonable.
But if you say duties, how does that? Okay, so you send a box of grapes, and the buyer says 200 rand for the box of grapes. Does that duty get paid there?
Yes.
So the buyer then
Yeah.
pays 240 rand instead of 200 rand.
Now he subtracts it from your price. You pay it. He doesn't pay.
Yeah.
He just do the transaction.
And that
You
is
pay
to
it.
enter the market.
Yes.
That money goes to that country's government.
Yes.
Yeah. So the buyer doesn't get it. You don't get it.
Does the buyer do the transaction? Does he pay the government and subtract it from your price?
Yes, the importer, correct.
Yes. So that it does make it a little bit less exciting to get in there if you're going to have to give up quite a lot of your profit.
So your exporter here needs to fight for a higher price there, so you can balance out. Okay.
But then you compete against, say, Peru.
Yeah, it doesn't
That
have
doesn't have it. That's the issue.
Yeah. Is that and that is something that our governments need to speak to each other about,
Yes.
potentially trying to lower the. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a big role for success for table grape growers and other growers lands in the lap of the government actually to assist you.
Yeah. But on a positive note, the UK and Europe and Canada and the US, we do have access to those markets, and they're by
Yes.
far the biggest grape markets in the world, and also China. So we have about 80% of the market where they sell a lot of grapes. We're there.
Okay.
If we take these smaller markets, for instance, Japan, South Korea, and Philippines, it's basically the same size as Canada, which is about 2 to 3 million boxes out of our 75 million. So it's good, but we're not.
It's still small and it's still
It's still small.
growing.
Yes.
But you mentioned Canada now, and I know that the Canadian market is not something that has been open for a very long time, and from a low base, it's been growing quite
It's a
steadily.
very difficult market. If you have an issue there, there's nowhere else to go. So you're stuck there because you can't ship it to the States. It's different protocols that you need to have.
Yes.
But good supermarkets there. A lot of the exporters and shipper growers in South Africa are doing well with supplying. Like
That's good to
Loblaws is
know.
a very good
Yeah.
supermarket. Costco, Metro. So it's very good for us.
Okay.
But when Chile comes in, we change because that's their preferred markets.
Yes. And when does Chile start to impact on our stuff? Are they later than us?
It's later. It's more the Western Cape region.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But Chile is declining in volume. They've got a lot of issues there, struggling with quality.
I've heard that.
Really struggling.
What's the labor issues or the labor cost like in those South American countries?
I think they're more expensive than us, but not by far. The big thing in Chile is also strikes, harbor sports. It's the same issues. Very expensive route to the Europe. They need to go through the Panama Channel.
Yeah.
Or around the Drake Passage, and
No,
nobody
they
wants
don't
to do
go
that.
there.
Yeah, so it's expensive for them.
Yeah.
So if South Africa go to the United States and Canada, it's normally on the west side, or always on the west side, Philadelphia, and truck it up to Montreal, where the Peruvians will go mostly Los Angeles. That's the closest port for them.
Okay. So maybe we should chat a little bit more about SATI. You were saying that they do quite a lot of R&D. Tell us a little bit more about that, because that's interesting.
If we need to open a new market or start to talking to them, there's a lot of R&D that we need to give them on certain bugs. Pests, say, for instance, Bactocera dorsalis, we just call it the beady, the met flies, false codling moth. What temperatures do they die? Is grapes really their home, or can we prove something different? And it takes a few years to get all that research and to compile it and send it to that government to approve it. Yeah. So what we're starting to do now is already see what the new markets we want to target and already start this process to get all the data so that we can speed it up a bit. But it's very expensive to do it, but it's just a must.
It's got to be done.
Yes.
So the R&D supports the government access to some extent?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that's interesting because, what people don't always connect that they're these scientists doing this, but why are they doing it? Yeah. It actually is a building block to market access.
Yeah, but people also don't know about what they're doing.
Yes.
I think the general public don't even know about these things. They read in the newspaper false codling moth. They don't know what a false codling moth is, what it looks like.
Well, the farmer also see it as boring research. They want to know, why is my grapes get botrytis? Doing cooling boxes, something more practical. That's what the farmer wants.
Yeah, you're talking about post-harvest stuff.
Yeah.
Does SATI do post-harvest stuff, or is that normally done with the exporters? How does that work?
We've just started post-harvest stuff.
Okay, interesting.
As well for our Chinese market. We had for the past 2 years a China campaign.
Okay,
that we've launched there. And Avi Mulech, technical manager at SATI. He did a lot of different inner bags that he tried with and probed all the pallets to see which is the best route or the best cooling methods to get a good sound fruit into the Chinese market. So that's beginning to come in because it's a lot of old data still in the industry with old varieties, old facilities and old packaging. So we need to reinvest in it, and all the varieties are different. To cooling, and it's not as easy.
But that's very interesting. So they've been doing trials on different types of bags and different types of packagings and stuff like that. And have those results come out?
I remember, Davy, we at one of the places we had to take samples back for them.
Yes.
That was supposed to go into cooling.
Yes, Davy, it did come out and he did send it through to us. And a big thing about the cooling is the quicker the better.
Yeah.
From cutting to cooling, the quicker the better. And that's actually just the basics that came out of the whole thing again, that we start to forget. 6 hours after cutting, it needs to be in forced cooling. Yes. And that's really a struggle.
That's already a long time.
Yeah, for us in the Hexriver, because we've got a centralized cold store, it needs to be trucked there. You need to wait for PPCB. Where especially the Northern Cape farmers all have their own cooling on the farm, so they just push it with the trolley just into the cold room. It's so easy as that. So it's something we are working on.
But what kind of stuff would you be looking at implementing for? Just from you as a farmer?
Our pre-cooling, we changed that. We got tot liners that we also rented in to drive the grapes with tot liners, so you don't get that heat on the fruit when you drive it back.
Is that now to
X-School?
To X-School.
Yes. X-School is doing about 70% of the grapes or the pallets in the Hexriver and farms outside. And then putting pressure on your inspectors to come in and to inspect the fruit so that you can move it on.
But what can growers do at a harvest level to already start doing that, to get that done quicker? Because we've seen where people go in and they cut like a whole block.
Yeah.
And then 4 or 5 hours later they only come where the lugs has been standing there for quite some time.
Now that's the wrong way of doing it.
That is absolutely how it shouldn't be done.
Yes.
I know, but
It
You should
happens.
affirm that.
It happens. Okay, so something else that you mentioned transformation and training. So the fact that you said a quarter of the levy has to be spent on
Yes.
transformation and training.
Yeah.
That's quite a chunk of your levy that goes in that direction. What is happening in that line? What are you guys what is SATI doing?
A lot of negotiations to be done with government,
Okay.
especially when you start a project. So we also, like I said, we've got Wilt in September there. He will assist the new grower, or what we call it, first generation growers. There's a lot of names. And he will assist them with the whole process. And what we also do from SATI, we'll help them to pay their vines. There's a lot of things you can do, but we just thought to help with the vines, it's more part of the industry than
Yes.
to buy a tractor or something more generic.
Yes.
So that's one of the where we will spend our money, and the others will also go for the training as well.
Okay. So interestingly, we've had the good fortune to interview a lot of your first generation growers that SATI is helping.
Yes.
And we've been absolutely astounded at the assistance that SATI has provided them with, and also the successes that they've achieved. Wow, really
Yes.
impressive. So and it's put it this way, it's not beginnings. It's actually they're getting there, and they're really doing well. So that's hats off to SATI to be seeing that. And what kind of training or skills development does SATI do other than the transformation stuff?
It's also a lot together with Elsenburg that we do
Elsenburg Training
courses.
College. Okay.
Yes. We more do training on farm level.
Okay.
Together with Eunice Avenant.
Okay.
So she's got training material there, different modules that you can do, just to take a lot of
to build capacity.
to take the people to the next level.
Yes.
So you can go quite further into that as well. We see great success with what she's doing, and just to come back to the first generation farmers, I must say we've got really good ones that's being mentors to the newer ones that's coming. I must say some of them are actually are commercial farmers now.
Yes.
To be honest, and the mentorship they give to the new first generation growers that's coming in is very great. It's good. Just to tell them on which door to knock and where to ask for help and what to do and how to. Where's the right starting point?
Yes.
But it's also a person of their own culture that they can look up to.
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes it easy.
And to put it bluntly, it's easier for them to look up to something like that than to look up to a quote
Commercial
white farmer.
Yeah, because that guy went through the same thing that he wants to go through now, and with success.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they really got some of these guys have got amazing operations.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, looking down the road, SATI is growing. The industry's growing.
We actually shrunk with 6%
In terms of growers, or
in terms of volume.
oh,
Yeah,
This last season.
this coming season.
Oh, the coming
This coming
season.
season we shrunk with about 7%.
Okay.
are there
wow.
on projections?
Yeah.
Yes, especially in the northern province, there's some varieties that just didn't work and they just cut it off. They'll take some time and see what they want to do now. Orange River, some varieties that's not working there will go to raisins where they can still make a good profit, all the way down to Traval. And then if you come to the Paul and Hexriver, you just cut it down and not prepare it. Maybe go for the local market with some of the varieties, but it's too expensive to take a chance and then ship it. So if you put all that together, we dropped by about 7%.
Okay.
That's quite something. So what you're saying is the risk of preparing a variety which might not bring you a profit
Yes.
has actually hit home with a lot of growers, and they are making the choice to rather not take that chance. They're just they're not going to go with those varieties.
Yeah, because if it's say 550,000 rand per hectare, and then it's another 200 plus thousand to get the 20 pallets to the market. So you 750,000 rand. Then you must hope that you get that money back for that 20 pallets. That's quite a big one.
That is a big one. That is a big one. And it's, sometimes people think if it's in the ground, you really must farm it, you must grow it, you must pack it. But if the money that's coming back is not doing the job, then...
So we've pushed the production. That's what you can do. But we are at the tipping point now. If you push it too much, quality, the long shipping and the delays, it's just an issue.
Yeah.
So you can push your production to 30 tons, but not much more than that.
Would you say if they bring production down to, like, let's say 20 tons and do higher quality, it could be better?
No, you need to have, production is always number one. And but you need to have price as well.
Yes.
If your production is so high and prices are so low, you won't even cover your packaging material because that's too expensive. If you go below 70 rand, you won't make that. So it's about 6,000 boxes of good quality, then you will make money with the right variety.
Okay, so again, I'm going to ask you what you guys are doing that helps with your production. What innovations have you implemented on your farms which have assisted you to ensure your productions, keep your farm health, keep the health of your plants? That was your dad. So I wanted to ask you about your IPM and the aerial mapping that you're doing with the... I think those are both very exciting things that you've brought in, which help for financial and environmental sustainability.
Yes. So I had a big issue with the mealybug in the Western Cape, and we sprayed and did a lot of things, and it was always just a problem. And then we went with the IPM, Integrated Pest Management, and it's about 10 years now that we do that without any spraying for mealybug. And I must say the first few years didn't really believe a lot in it. And then after the years, we started to see the success of it. Then changed from one supplier to another, new bugs coming in.
But explain the process, because that's fascinating.
So about every 2 weeks we will put in bugs in the vineyards.
Where do you get these bugs?
Well, they come actually from the Netherlands, but you can also get them from Chenin.
Oh, okay.
There's a few different suppliers. And
We're a bug supplier.
yeah.
Yes. So these ones come from Holland, it's a Nederlandse accent.
Yeah. And so if your orchard is contaminated with mealybug, it's normally a red or orange or greenish green. Is
that the levels of contamination you're talking about? Okay.
So if you have a red orchard, you'll put in extra. You'll put in a different amount, more heavily, more expensive. But the whole thing is to get the red to a green next season.
Yes, of course.
And then you can just put in less bugs and they just control everything then. But it took us a while to get to green status. So we've got about 5% still on orange. So we're focusing on them now. And then it becomes worth the while.
Yes.
Just maintaining it.
So you have people scouting to see if there are any problems.
Yes.
Mealybug and other bugs.
Everything, all pests.
Okay.
Everything they do by their laptop or their iPad, all on phone, all on the app. We also use aerobotics that come and fly the farms 3 times a year with their drones. See where all the hot spots is, where the growth is not good, where we water too much, where you can see everything from there. And that's all put into this app. So we just work for even the scout. He can take a picture of what he sees in the vineyard and download it onto the app. He can even make a hole to inspect the soil. The water.
What app is that?
It's aerobotics.
Oh, it's Aerobotics' app.
Yes,
okay.
yes. So we did a lot of work together with them. We started with them and developed it. Not us, we just gave the farm and the people to do it.
Okay.
And I think that's the future.
And is it really making a fundamental difference to your farm to have all that information?
It does. Because normally you will spray just for anything in advance. Now we start to take certain sprays out, lower our cost, lower our MRLs. That's the end result we want to work to.
And can you, and obviously now you can spot treat instead of treating a whole block.
Correct, yes, you can do that.
Yeah.
So the scouts will go also through the vineyards and mark the vine where the issue is. Especially for mealybug, you can see ants. If you see ants, you see the mealybug. Then we mark it and we just spray that one vine rather than the whole orchard.
Yes, and I understand that those surveys by aerobotics, they also see where there are problems with water, and it can even be one vine where an emitter is blocked.
Yeah, correct, that's true. Yeah, you can see it. It's the, what do you call, the algorithms that they use with these clever cameras. I'm not really too clued up, but it's insane what they can do.
Now we've just done a video for them for the same product, but focused on macadamias.
Oh, yes.
So it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that expensive per hectare.
If it's making the difference to you that you say it is, then really innovation and technology, I mean, we've just been talking about sustainability, economic sustainability. Yes. If it's going to save you money on plants that are not performing optimally, and the IPM is going to save you money on putting those expensive and very toxic sprays down, it's win-win.
But when you started looking at this, because I know there will probably be a lot of growers saying, oh, this initial cost, then I maybe see something in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
Or risk, the initial risk.
Yeah, that's why we started it small. You started with a sample, and then that's why it took us a while to get there. It was so new, so different.
But if you stand around a braai now and people ask you, Anton, how has it been going? Do they adopt it easier now or not?
No, not really. I can't see it. There's 3 other growers, but they believe in it. They see the difference. They're actually involved in it. So they're also getting the results.
But obviously now, if there's 4 guys, that's not a chance. It's not luck anymore.
Yeah. It's still the cost thing. People, at the stage we're in now in the world, people just keep it back a bit, just lay low, if we can say that word. Not now keen to do something new.
Yeah. So if you were to, I mean, you're a table grape grower, you are the SATI chairman. If you are looking down the road, what would you say to growers? What would you say? We are going through tough times. Have you got any particular message or mantra that you would like to say to other growers? I know it's a difficult one, especially under the circumstances.
No, we just need to stick in. We just need to stick in. I think the end is in sight.
Yeah.
Definitely. We had really the 2 worst years probably in history, or since the World Wars. But I think the end is in sight. We're still a preferred country. And we always had good quality of grapes, and we have very good growers in South Africa. So we just need to stick in. And then my dad always said, you think you're going out of business now, the next year is such a good year that you can go forward again.
Sure. That connects with the faith that farmers have to have. They always say, well, when is a farmer's best year? It's next year.
Yes, correct.
So I agree with your sentiment. I think it's good to say to people, hang in there.
Yeah.
And if you could today, if somebody says to you, Anton, today you've got to pull out all your vines, what would you plant? If you say you can't farm table grapes anymore, what would you?
Not table grapes.
Yeah.
Something else.
Something else.
Nothing. I will just sit and wait a bit. Maybe get some cattle and sheep.
Yeah.
Because all the industries are in a tough time now. If you take citrus, blueberries, it's difficult now. So no, I won't do anything.
Interesting.
Just as a last, we've chatted about many things, but you touched on it, but I think it would be interesting to take that one a little bit further down the road. You were also at the Global Global Grape Summit, and the new intellectual companies that are breeding new grapes and that are providing them have made a huge difference to the industry, because, as you say, before there was just seeded varieties and the old stuff that we used. And now the whole industry internationally has moved towards growing those varieties. But now you have to have them.
Yes.
And they come at quite a cost. Obviously one has got to pay them because they've made the effort to get there. But what is your thought about where we're going with this? I mean, the growers are ultimately paying quite a high price for that, and we're in a very tough economic time here.
And the market's demanding the newer variety.
Yes. It's a difficult one. You don't have to, but maybe you want to comment on that?
Yes. If we hadn't had the new varieties, we would have lost space in the stores to berries. Strawberries, berries, blackberries. That would have happened, because it's just a lot better than an old seeded grape. So thanks to all of them who did the new varieties. What we see now is that the wave just broke on the beach now, and not everybody is keen to rip out vineyards and plant anything that's new. So there's a few varieties that really sticked, and that's the one that the client likes to buy, the supermarket likes to sell, and we like to grow. But if we all do that, we're not gonna get the profit we always got. And that's where the model becomes very expensive, because there's not a variety to differentiate yourself now. Like the guys who planted it first, they made a lot of money with it, and then everybody followed. So now you're looking for a new one, but you don't get a new one. So what we also take out of that grape summit from the American growers, that it's expensive to grow these varieties now. So I think in the future they need to get a different model. Otherwise, they're going to lose us as well, go down with us. And I also think that a once-off fee might be good, not paying every time, always. And maybe at what level you pay, they can also look at it. Because at the moment, we also pay a percentage to them on our packaging material. Maybe deduct our packaging material and only...
Is it to have the cultivar name on it?
Yes, so we talk about FOB terms in a lot of these varieties. So you pay FOB, it's free on board. So I take it to Cape Town from the farm, the price level there, that's where we pay. But then I also have my packaging material and everything in it. So I think it will be more fair just to pay on the grapes value, not on the packaging value. That will save us a lot of money. So I think if they can listen to that and maybe see if they can get that into their system, it will be great for the growers.
Well, what about something like a sliding scale? Year 1 it's X, year 2, and let's say go up to year 5.
That can be also a good one, because normally table grapes only have a 20-year lifespan. So
yeah, and with the right new cultivars coming, it's a lot less.
That can also be.
But your comment is very valid, and I think it's very timely. And it was interesting to be in an audience where you had people from everywhere internationally, and you were hearing that everyone's got the same problems, and B, the issue that we just discussed now is being universally felt.
Yeah, that definitely came out there. But I must say the new varieties made the grape industry sexy again.
Of course.
We weren't sexy.
Of course.
So a big thanks to them for doing that.
Yeah,
I think the nice thing that, if I could have had one other industry at the Grape Summit, everybody complained about shipping, but there was nobody from shipping defending their side or giving solutions.
No, they were all on holiday.
That could also
at the beach, made a lot of money. Luckily, we see that also working out now, but prices are coming down.
That's good news. Excellent
More
news.
ships are being built, even on the conventional ships. We spoke to some of them, Sea Trade at the Madrid Fair. got ships being built coming in 2 years' time, also in the market, which will be good. And also a lot of container ships and containers are being built, big demand.
That's really good news, because I know that there wasn't much growth on the shipping, on the actual capacity, that there was a problem because suddenly there was a shortage.
Yes.
And particularly the people servicing our north-south route. The other routes were being serviced at the expense of actually people coming to fetch fruit in South Africa.
But with COVID, that other article that I found that was written in the States, there wasn't people in the Los Angeles harbors or the West Coast harbors to offload the stuff. So the ships were just getting stuck there for
I think they're still stuck there. I just saw it on the news.
Now.
No, it's on the news again.
Oh.
No, they're still Los Angeles harbor. But a lot of new containers are coming into the system, if I can say it like that. I actually saw a new container on a truck just passing the farm the other day. Because when the COVID came, everything that looked like a container was dragged into the system again, and we had a lot of issues with claims and temperature problems, and some of them looked horrible. But
that's also very exciting, because COVID has shaken a lot of things up, and of course, it's been hell for a lot of people. I mean, other than being ill, a lot of people have lost their livelihoods, and the whole shake-up in the supply chain has been an issue. But if it's settling and prices are getting a little bit cheaper to ship things, and new ships are being built, potentially that's good news for the short term in the next few years.
But we must say the elephant in the room is still the Ukraine-Russian war. You can't believe that two countries can have such a big influence on the world economy and even Europe, which is a pity. They're going into winter now, with everybody talking about the gas prices need to warm up. So, and that's also when we are going into...
It's a very scary situation.
It's when we are going into season, so we just hope there's not something waiting for us there that's difficult.
The last 2 to 3 years have been unprecedented. All the weird things that have happened, and I mean, did we ever think that you'd see aggression like as you were mentioning, and the effects? I mean, heating, fuel, and food. The grain prices. I mean, we were actually just on a grain farms yesterday, hearing what difference, how that is affecting what they are getting in. So, I mean, the Afrikaans saying, "Een man se dood is 'n ander man se brood." It's really, and in this case, bread. We're talking bread.
Yeah, correct.
So the grain.
One farmer told us that his accountant said he must store his grain till June, otherwise he's going to have an issue when he sells it in
tax
season.
Problem,
and then the war happens and he had a bigger problem because the price went up.
But also the fuel again for them.
Yeah. Thanks, Anton. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us? I mean, would you encourage young people to join the agricultural sector? South Africa is a very strange place, but the agricultural sector is actually one of our sectors that's still booming. What would your advice be to young people?
Yes, I think there's a lot of space in, especially the table grape sector, on different levels, from finance to farming to technical advice to packaging, transport and logistics. There's really a demand for people to come into our sector, and especially on the management side, it's different than in the old years ago, where anybody can come and farm. You need to really be a specialist on farming now to make ends meet. Everything needs to be calculated and done 100% correctly. So I think there's a good opportunity for students to come out of varsity to the agriculture.
Because to service the agricultural sector, it needs so many different service providers, different people, as you say, logistics, research, accountants, even engineers. I mean, if you're building a big dam and stuff like that. So it's a huge sector, and there's actually space there for a lot of people.
Yes.
And it feeds our country. I mean, I know that we export most of the table grapes, but the point is, agriculture is important.
Yes, correct. Especially on the marketing side as well, to market the fruit. We don't see that many people there in that sector.
But if you say marketing, what would you like to see in that kind of sector? Just curious.
No, just to continue what we do, but we don't see that many marketeers in the market. I was just looking for a marketeer, and there weren't really a lot that specializes in, say, table grapes. Maybe it's a citrus guy or from another industry. But I think there's, for the younger generation, a lot of opportunity there. If I can say, it seems there's an older generation in the marketing that's going out, and the mid-generation is not that big. That's just a feeling that I've got. And if you go older, you're more relaxed and not keen to change.
Yes.
What would you like to see in marketing? If like you said, you were looking for somebody now, and do you want somebody that can do TikTok or take better photos, or how would you see that?
What I would like to see is all the people that sell the fruit for below cost to disappear.
Love that answer.
Because they come in and destroy the market for a whole industry.
Yeah.
By coming in with prices that weren't thought through, and the grower is not on par with what price levels must be, and as soon as that price hits the market, that's the price.
But do you think there's a space in what you guys are doing to have somebody come in and create a awareness on something like a TikTok for your brand?
There will always be. If you see the results that you get from a TikTok, there will always be. Especially if there's nude in it.
Obviously.
It goes over 1 million quickly.
But do they buy? Or only watch?
Yeah. I think we're done. Unless there's anything in particular you wanted to still add.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and for your insights. I think it's been very interesting, and we've touched on many topics, and I think there's definitely something of interest there. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Dewald.
Thank you. Well.